Welcome back, everybody. This is Two Brothers Politics. Today, John is going to introduce everything that we have coming forward.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the World Economic Forum, the Davos agenda in Davos, Switzerland. A lot of what we have tonight is actually from last year and the year before that, but I do have some articles that have already come out from the event that just started within the last couple of days. In just a second, we'll get right into it. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Glad that you are here with us today. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into the first article here. So if you guys do remember the last episode that we had, we were talking about, a couple conspiracy theories that were revolving around the World Economic Forum and how, the Klaus Schwab and his evil villainess wanted you to go ahead and eat bugs and get off of meat products. And so this first article that we have here is going to be from the Economic Times. It says, eat insects to save the planet. This academic feels it could help in achieving a sustainable food source. I do have links from the World Economic Forum itself, but those will come later. Right now, it's kind of just debunking the fact that it's a conspiracy altogether. They want to claim that that it's a conspiracy. There's no push for anybody to eat bugs, but I mean,
Well, hold on.
in
Ho-
fact, uh-huh.
Hold on. I wouldn't say no. The idea that it's a conspiracy is that they're going to force you to eat bugs. Like the idea that they've openly talked about eating bugs has never been the conspiracy. The conspiracy is that they are going to force you to eat bugs. And that's not what this article is saying.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, no. Yeah,
we're gonna get into it more, but I'm saying
right.
in general, the conspiracy isn't that they want to move towards some kind of bug source. This has been talked about for quite some time. Now, being
Mhm.
forced to eat bugs, that's a different story, and many people like yourself have said that it's going to be forced upon you.
I do think by the end of this, I think that you'll see that there is a clear agenda to get people off of meat and onto bugs. I
I
think
and
that I
and
think that they're gonna
I'm
open it
not
up.
disagreeing with that. I am not disagreeing that there is an
Hmm.
agenda to get people to eat bugs
Right.
versus cows, and chickens aren't mentioned per se. It's really
Hmm.
cows that they focus on, animals with four
Right.
stomachs and so on and so forth. But I just did want to clarify that and make sure that like that's at least that's where the grounds that I'm standing on
Hmm.
is I never believed a conspiracy. And for all I know, bug consumption could be a good option depending on how it tastes. I
The
think it
science is
comes
actually pretty good.
the science is fantastic. Let's get
Yeah.
into it. You continue on. Sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
you can actually go ahead and start scrolling down a little bit,
Okay.
as and just kind of keep that as a rule of thumb for tonight, because I think that
Okay. I
as
did want to
time,
read this because
yes,
this is kind of a big deal.
this is the
It
science that I
says
was actually telling you about
yeah.
here. Yeah.
So adult crickets are 65% protein by weight, which is
Hmm.
higher than both beef, which is 23%, and tofu, which is 8%. Insects are also high in material or minerals, apologize, such as copper, iron, and magnesium. It is therefore of no surprise that insects are consumed by humans in many world regions today. And that's another thing I did want to bring up is that
Hmm.
this isn't something that is out of the ordinary outside of first world countries.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And
there's something like 2,000 species of bugs that we can eat.
yeah,
But it is important because I mean there is a lot of cultures that do eat bugs, and I've got no issue with eating bugs if I'm starving, but because I live in the country that I do, I have the option to choose beef if I want beef or chicken or pork or whatever it is that I want. I shouldn't have to eat bugs. But in a situation where I do need protein, I get the science. That's over twice as much protein per weight, which is incredible. But it is important to know that, out of all of the insects and bugs that we have in the world, we only know of about 2,000, and there's yeah, 100,000, 200,000 different species of insects. So it's important to know that you can't just decide to go, you got to watch your kids. Don't just let them start eating bugs. But essentially, this is talking about, you know, bug protein per weight and how, I think this article, it might be the next article that's talking about the methane pollution from cows and how, cows burp a lot, they fart a lot, and because of that, we've got an issue with methane being put into the air. There's right now, I think we have 1.5 billion cows in the world. And according to the World Economic Forum, they want to subside that actually by a lot. Ireland alone has agreed to this, has agreed to cull up to 1.3 million cattle to reach climate targets. So this is just Ireland. Ireland has gotten on board with this so far. Yeah, and I mean, just keep, there's so much, there's no way that we're going to be able to roll through this. We'll be here all night, we'll be here for 6 hours. I've got way too many articles on this. This is really just, I want to be able to provide the information to everybody, so that way, as you will, if you feel the need to or want to, you can pause the video at any point, read through the article, and then just pick back up where you left off. So
This
this
one is
article
from
is,
The Guardian, and it is a year old.
mhm,
There are more updated stuff on this. There are bills trying to be passed to prevent this from happening. So it's not necessarily something that is happening. It is something that is being considered. But it's not necessarily something that is factually happening yet.
right. Well,
Um,
there has been 100 countries so far
yeah, and it
that
says
have
it here
gotten
in
on
this.
board with
It
this.
says here in this article from a year ago as well. Um, It says right here, more than 100 countries pledged to reduce methane emissions by 30% by 2030.
Right.
Um, and so, it all depends on how they do this. At the end of the day, a lot of the farmers are concerned about these methods, but there's also, like you said, there's methods out there that they are working on to reduce methane so that it's
Hmm.
not such a problem.
Right.
Because if you do look at methane pollution versus, say, CO2 pollution, um, the agriculture of farms of cattle and so on and so forth, it's
Hmm.
so drastically high that I'm not going to say that it contributes to climate change. I don't know the ins and outs. I know I do believe that climate change is a thing. I've seen the
Hmm.
science. I've gone over the science. I don't believe it's as catastrophic as people try to make it out
Hmm.
to be. They try to make it like it's the doomsday is coming and we have to stop it now. Like, I don't think we
Hmm.
actually understand that part of the science. What's the actual ramifications? How it's actually going to affect everything?
Hmm.
What's the end result at this? What can we actually do to detour these things? Um, well, I believe that methane is part of the problem. There's so many other factors that go into pollution and into ruining the environment that methane, at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to stop the beef industry. Like, it's just not possible, especially here in
Yeah.
America. It would never happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like, you have that freedom to choose what you want to eat. I'm not going to say, I don't want to take it for granted and say that that should be every person on the planet. It should be every person on the planet, but I'm not going to say that is the option for every person on the planet. We do have a lot of countries out there that are very poor and don't really have a choice to be able to eat whatever it is that they want. But I think that, in a country such as ours here in America, if we have the finances and the ability to back it, then you should be able to eat whatever you want as long as you can afford it. If you're a productive member of society, you're paying your bills, you've got the money to go and get a nice T-bone steak, then you should be able to have a T-bone steak and not have to be served crickets.
No, and that's my thing. Like, even so, let's say hypothetically that
Hmm.
they're able to do some kind of ban in the United States banning beef. Let's
Hmm.
say hypothetically that were a thing that happened. People would just use other animals. What are you going to ban all farming altogether, all agriculture altogether? That would literally put the world into such a dire state in itself. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And you could try to replace it with bugs, but at the end of the day, people are just going to turn to chickens. I
Yeah.
mean, that's my diet anyway. Like, I rarely eat beef as it is. I usually eat tilapia. So, the beef industry concern is not that big of a deal to me, but
Hmm.
I also do like to have a hamburger. I do
Right.
like to go out and go get a triple stack hamburger from one of these restaurants and just devour it.
Well,
Um, but I think, like you said, I think it's everybody's right to decide what they're going to do. Now,
yeah.
I do think the industry of cattle and ranching as a whole definitely needs some adjusting because some of these
Hmm.
farms are just absolutely horrible. Some of
Right.
these places are just absolutely disgusting places.
Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
talk about like the McDonald's farms and their chickens and how they treat their chickens. It's
yes,
actually really bad.
yeah, it's horrible.
One thing I actually wanted to bring up, and I don't have any articles on this, but just over the last year, I think chicken prices. The last time I checked, like 3 months ago, I checked, chicken prices went up like 14% or something. Beef prices went up like 8%, and it's not quite matching the rate of inflation. Like the price of meat products are going up higher than the rate of inflation is. And so, and not only that, there's a reason for that is because a lot of farmers are being paid by their government. Not there's been a couple cases here in America, but it's very few. But a lot of the rest of the remaining world is actually in Sri Lanka. Um,
Actually, we're gonna
uh,
get into Sri Lanka because
yeah.
you gave me some reading to do, which I did, and
Okay.
you attributed some of its problems, or
Hmm.
the big problem, to the world economic system, but it's so much deeper than
It
the
is
world
it
economic system.
right. It's
Like,
absolutely a lot deeper.
but we're gonna get into it,
Yeah,
and
we'll save
we're
it for
gonna
that.
talk about why that failed. But yeah, right
Right.
now this is a new article from Utters, by Mark Hilston. Let's see.
Yeah, you can just kind of scroll through this one. This one is pretty much saying the exact same thing.
Okay, this one's talking
Um,
about the cow burps and by reducing the
mhm.
the methane output that they produce.
Yeah, I think that they're talking about like a moss. Was it a moss? It's been a couple of days since I read it, but there's like a vegetable item essentially
Yeah,
that they give
it's a
it.
red no, it's made from a red algae.
Okay, there it is, algae. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
It's a
a lot
food
of
supplement.
countries in the world, their governments are paying their farmers not to farm, and that goes for crops, that goes for meat products, that goes all the way across the board. While simultaneously, at the same time, we're pushing into these industries. There's a cricket farm. I've got an article in here. We'll see what the I think it's called Aspire is the company that wants to commercialize crickets essentially.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
again, that's not that big of a deal because crickets have been commercialized all over the world.
mhm.
It's just not something that is typical to our culture.
Right. I've got no issue with it's the fact that all of these things are happening at the exact same time as if it to push an agenda. Like it's very clear that it's an agenda that is
Well,
being
so far,
pushed.
none of these articles have said that governments are intentionally paying their
Right.
farmers not to grow.
Well, once we get into later on, you see the countries that have gotten on board with the World Economic Forum, the agenda becomes very clear. Plant-based diets
Like I
will
said,
be essential for the
I
planet's
don't
future.
doubt that they have a plan that they want to move forward, but
Right.
there's still no evidence that they're trying to force you to eat this stuff. They're trying
Mhm.
to get more economies and more governments on board with it, but at the end of the day, all you have to do is say no.
I don't think that it is as simple as that though.
It is.
But I mean,
The
it's you as the consumer don't have the option of what your government is telling you that they're going to do. Like we're
We do here in
supposed to have,
America. At the end of the day, we do here in America.
yeah, we're supposed to,
We do.
but well, I mean, we pulled up that clip from Matt Gaetz last week. It was saying, that are we the people still in control of the government? And his response to that is, the power of the control lies within the highest bidder.
Yeah,
So even here
he
in the
also
best
wants to make
democracy
sure
in the
that he
world,
stays in office too. Like,
sure. Yeah.
At the end, like at the end of the day, we do still have a voting system.
Hmm.
We do have a democracy. We or not a democracy, but you know what I mean. We have a
Right.
system set up in place to where we vote and we pick the elected officials that we choose to have in office. And if they do a bad job or they do something wrong, then we get them out of
Right.
office and we replace them with someone else. At the end of the day, we're sitting here and pretending like it's like the America is just going to fold. Like Americans all over the place are just be like, yeah,
Right.
we're done with hamburgers. Like, no, it's just not gonna happen. Like, there
So
would be absolute outrage from rural America all the way into the inner cities. It would you couldn't do it.
I agree with you theoretically that, we the people have the power, but the politicians are not going along with their constituents anymore. And we can see that in every single vote that we've had for like the last 5 years. And it's not always true, right? I would say like 95% of the time, politicians do go along with their constituents as they should, as
They
they're
have to
supposed to.
because if they
Yeah,
wanna stay in office, they know
right.
who they have to appease.
Yeah,
Just
as
like
they're
that,
supposed to.
that lady in Arizona, she went from, Democrat to independent, right?
I
She
don't
had a
remember her
real
name.
yeah, I can't remember her name, either. We'll have to
Hmm.
look it up later. But yeah,
Yeah, but
she did that exact same thing to make sure her constituents were
mhm.
happy with the stances that she was taking.
A lot of Democrats pretending to be Republicans, some Republicans pretending to be Democrats just
It
for the
all depends
votes.
on where they live,
Right.
what area, what's the
Yeah, exactly.
demographic of it, Republican, Democrat wise.
Yeah, keep scrolling down this one because I mean we're just gonna burn through this one fairly quickly too.
Okay, so this one's
But
from the World Economic Forum, written
mhm.
by Johnny Wood, one of their senior writers. A new report explores the role of the global food system and its role in accelerating biodiversity loss. The quest
Mm,
for the forever cheaper food prices leads many farmers to adopt unsustainable practices. The paper from the UK think tank uh, Chatham House says, I don't know why I messed that up. These practices harm biodiversity and exploit valuable resources like land and water. Switching to a primarily plant based diet could prevent the loss of thousands of wildlife species, setting aside and protecting more land for nature and farming in more natural or nature friendly ways are also recommended. These aren't all bad ideas.
no, no,
Like
no, no.
these are all good ideas at the end of the day. I understand your worry and concern is that they are going to have so much influence
Hmm.
that it's inevitably going to be dictated through regulation and through law.
Right. Well, okay. So I don't want to jump too far ahead. I was actually going to save this for the very ending, but there was an article that came out today. Um, what was the Siemens, Siemens Corporation? The head of the Siemens Corporation was at the World Economic Forum yesterday, and he's saying that essentially, in order to stop global warming, 1 billion people have to stop eating meat right now.
Yeah,
One
hold on.
billion people, and I think it's like the second to last article.
Yeah, I got it. I got to pull it up
Okay.
real quick. I got to get into the search bar.
This one is by Fox News, but I mean, if you go online, you go on Google, you can type in WEF, World Economic Forum. You can type it all the way out if you want. Siemens, Siemans. There it is, Siemens. That's the chairman said the future will bring proteins that are zero carbon, healthier and tastier than meat. The future will bring proteins.
So, a speaker at the World Economic Forum, WEF, moving forward, called on 1 billion people to stop eating meat to combat climate change. If a billion people stop eating meat, I tell you, it has a big impact. Not
Mhm.
only does it have a big impact on the current food system, but it will also inspire innovation of food systems. This is what he had said. I don't disagree with these things. Um, I think he is kind of virtue signaling because he was inspired by his 24-year-old daughter who seems to be an advocate for zero carbon value chains and all of this
Mhm.
craziness. So, I'm sure that he's just like, oh, I feel like I need to get involved, and was like, all right, now I'm involved in it. We need to all stop eating meat. Like,
Right. Well, see, this is the issue though, is that if they're telling us, the World Economic Forum, this gentleman is saying, Um,
I mean, he's not the Economic
no,
Forum.
no, no,
He
no.
is a
He's not.
guy
He's
at the World
yeah.
Economic Forum.
He's a speaker. He's just a speaker. There's a list that we'll go through later of people that are a part of the World Economic Forum that are supposed to show up this year. Um, but okay, so who is that 1 billion people that are going to stop eating meat? Who gets to decide who gets to eat meat and who doesn't? So
Well,
sure, if
that's not
one
what he's
billion
doing,
people
though. He's saying
volunteering,
he's challenging people to not eat meat. He's not saying that we
mhm.
need 1 billion people to stop. He's saying it would be cool if 1 billion people would stop eating meat.
No, I mean he is saying that 1 billion people have to stop eating meat.
No, it's
That's
not what he said. Word for word. If
yeah.
1 billion people stopped eating meat, I tell
Mhm.
you, it has a big impact. Not
Right.
only does it have a big impact on the current food system, but it will also inspire innovation of food systems.
So
He
what
is not
happens when they don't?
saying that you need to do this. He's saying that it could really do a lot of good if
Mhm.
people did this. But that's
Yeah.
an if. That is
And
not a must.
what happens if we don't? What happens if nobody decides that they want to switch over to a plant
Then we
slash
continue
cricket based society?
to go.
I mean, I
That's what
wish it
happens.
I wish it was that simple, but having looked at what the World Economic Forum has been doing for like the last 6 years, it, they're not going to stop until they reach their goal of whatever it is that they say that they're going to do.
That's not necessarily true.
I mean, I don't have anything on here for tonight's showing on brain chips or a world currency, but those as well are in the agenda. And Klaus Schwab's agenda is every single person on the planet will have a brain chip no later than like 2033 or 2035.
Yep. Guess
That
what?
is his agenda.
Guess what? No. Like that's all people have to say is no, we're not doing that. You cannot force people to get brain chips. It's
I'm
as
not
simple as that.
I agree
Like
with you.
like the idea behind it, like I don't think it's his agenda to force everybody to get it. I think his agenda is I think society would be better this way. And I think that he is 100% wrong on that. I think he is wrong in believing. And that's why I said, like, the World Economic Forum,
Mhm.
I don't think is doing something out of malicious intent. Like, I truly believe that these people think that they are doing something good, but they are so disconnected from
Mhm.
the regular everyday person that they don't understand that these ideas are freaking stupid. Like these are
So,
the worst ideas that you guys are coming up with.
yeah.
Well, might I mention, have not one of them mentioned working with the military and trying to take down their emissions because they are one of the biggest polluters on
Yeah,
the
but
freaking planet,
they won't do
especially
that.
the US military.
They won't do that because war makes too much money.
Mhm.
It's that simple. And I agree with you that, the World Economic Forum, we could say, you know, I don't agree with the argument, but I understand the argument. And we could say that the World Economic Forum is not trying to push something onto the people of the world. But the issue that I have is that these politicians are getting on board with this agenda and then they go back home to their countries and
Okay,
then they
so
push it.
the question is, how do you stop it?
I think that the only
Because they're
way.
not doing anything wrong. Especially if they did this in America, this is 100% falling under freedom of speech. They
Right,
have every right to sit there and have the discussions and
right.
talk about these things in this
Hmm.
manner. So I don't understand. I guess I don't
Okay,
know
so
what you would do about the problem to stop these individuals from doing this,
the
from pushing whatever, because I understand what your concern is that
Mhm.
these people all have really bad ideas and that these ideas are eventually going to become policy throughout the
Mhm.
world, and it's going to lead to some type of globalization that could be potentially dangerous
Right.
or tyrannical or dictatorship or authoritarian, whatever you want to go with.
Let's
um
let's go to the next clip really quick. It's the Bill Gates one. I'll give you a second there to
okay,
to look it up.
I got it.
So the United States Constitution is the best defense to the World Economic Forum and the entire world. Like Klaus Schwab has come
I
on and
agree
stated,
100%.
yeah,
I agree that the US Constitution, I think all of our rights
yes,
100% is what's most important. I think all of our amendments are and that's another thing I was going to bring up is why I'm a huge advocate of the Second Amendment, because at the end of the day,
That's what
all of these conspiracy theories get smashed out as long as we are still armed.
right. You
The
could just keep
the
scrolling
day
through this one as we go.
the day that they take weapons away from us is the
Right.
day that I truly have concern about what happens next. This one's actually
Um
really short.
yeah, this one is really short. You can skip the next one. We pretty much covered that already.
Okay, hold
It's
on. Give me
it's
a
the
second to pull up.
five reasons why eating insects can reduce climate change. Um, I've got a video for you actually here in a second, but the best defense is the U.S. Constitution. The issue that I have with that now is it seems like over the last 10 years we have been pushing the US Constitution to the side on certain matters, slowly but surely. And the worry and concern that I have is that we get an administration. I'm not going to say that it's the left or the right. It could be either administration. It really doesn't matter. But we get an administration that gets into power that says, you know what, like we don't really care about the Constitution. The same way that the vaccine mandates came through, right?
Mhm.
And instead of going through the Constitution and voting on it, we pushed that agenda through corporations, and then corporations enforced that agenda. So the US Constitution didn't even matter there. The corporations forced it, and then people lost their jobs, got fired, their livelihoods were completely gone, all because they decided that they just didn't want to get the shot, and they're entitled not to get the shot based on the Constitution. But again, the Constitution was meaningless there, at least for a time. Now, we've got like 8,700 US military members that are looking to either get like a severance package, get reinstated because they were kicked out for not having the shot. And the military is specific. I get it, like if you're in the military and you sign your life away, you should have gotten the shot. You don't really have a choice, so they were right to kick you out. The issue I have there, though, is the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, kids in schools that are not able to go to school because it's just a whole nother shot on top of everything.
Yeah, I do agree that it got excessive. It really did. It
Hmm.
got out of hand on a lot of things. Government, we definitely learned where government was willing to overstep.
Hmm.
Um, again, I always believed that the vaccine, I got my two shots for my vaccine. After that, I didn't get it again because I ended up getting COVID. And
Hmm.
after that, I wasn't worried about anything. And I was like, it should be fine. I'm not worried about it. I've got double antibodies. Um, and so all those things, it really, as I looked at it from the outside, though, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't feel like I need to have it. We've gotten to a point where, at least here in Texas, we weren't wearing masks anymore. And so it really died down a lot. But in retrospect, like they did overreact in a lot of different ways, especially in the North, especially in the more liberal states. And I think that's why the Second Amendment is so crucial. And I'm gonna have to look up an article. There's actually I believe it was the governor of Illinois or the senator. I can't remember which one. He went over to the World Economic Forum and he was talking about how they're gonna go green by, or like go 100% electric by what, 2050 or something like that, or
Okay.
100% green by 2050. He's also the same individual who just recently banned semi-automatic weapons sales and purchases within all
Wis-
of Illinois. Is it?
Wisconsin, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Illinois? You might be
Yeah.
right. It may have been Illinois. It's one of the two, and there's something like 90.
Oh,
Whoops.
yep.
There's something like 90 sheriffs, 90 counties excuse me, 90 counties that decided that the sheriffs of the counties were like, we're not going to enforce that. There's
Yes.
still a handful of them that were, unwilling to say or willing to enforce it altogether. I don't think that we need that video actually. I think that we could probably go to the
The
next one.
cicadas.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just talk through it really quick.
Yeah, it's the
Eating
Illinois
cicadas.
governor bans assault weapons.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I'll bring it up because I do want to share that article.
Hmm. Eating cicadas is actually good for the environment, and they apparently taste like shrimp. That was a video that
All
we
right, so
had
this
there.
is reported by C. Mandler on CBS News. It
Hmm.
is Illinois governor signs ban on assault weapons and high capacity magazines.
Right.
This was posted on January 10th, so it was about 12 days ago. What is it? Pritzker? I don't know how to say that name. The governor
Pritzker.
of Illinois, though.
Hmm.
Pritzker.
Yeah. All right.
Pritzker signed into a bill banning the sale and distribution of assault weapons and high capacity magazines on Tuesday evening. The ban takes effect immediately. The
So
House,
my question really quick then is what is his definition? What does the law say? What is defined as an assault weapon and what is defined as high capacity magazines?
all right, so there's it goes into detail right here. Under the new legislation, according to CBS Chicago, long guns will be limited to 10 rounds per magazine, and handguns cannot have more than 15 rounds. It also bans switches, devices which convert legal handguns into assault weapons, and additionally extend the ability of courts to prevent dangerous individuals from owning a gun through firearm restraining orders, the governor's office said, which that was already a part of the law. I 100% guarantee. Under the new law, those who already own weapons on the ban list can keep them, but need to register them with Illinois State Police within 300 days. And this is where the sheriffs came out of Illinois all over the county and said that they're not going to do this because it is unconstitutional to make
Hmm.
citizens register their weapons. And that, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any way, shape, or form. I am the most skeptimistic person that you uh that is shady stuff.
Hmm.
When they go and take this step, and
Right.
maybe the governor truly believes that guns are just evil and he doesn't understand anything about guns or the reason why we should have guns, and maybe he just doesn't agree with it. But I think that's another thing that comes with privilege, man. Like we've talked
Right.
about this on multiple occasions. Is these guys, these politicians, they're privileged individuals that have all grown up in very privileged lifestyles, and they're so disconnected from us that they don't truly understand anything about the middle and below class and the
Hmm.
culture that we have built up. Like, we've literally been raised around guns our entire lives. Our grandpa
Hmm.
has an entire freaking arsenal. You know what I mean? Like this is something that is not new to anything that we have. And I really believe that like I said, it's fundamental. At the end of the day, having the Second Amendment is the most important thing. And things like this, 100%, I think he should be removed from office. They need to do something, get him out of there, because at the end of the day, this is super unconstitutional. This goes against your constitutional rights, and it should not be allowed in any way, shape, or form. Are you there? Oh, right. So we're going to be diving into the next article. We'll play this Cicada one real quick.
Soon going to be buzzing around everywhere in our area. Going to be fun.
This was inevitable. One expert at Johns Hopkins says they make cicadas, that is, for a very tasty and eco-friendly meal. Stetson Miller has this for us.
Cicadas will soon be crawling all over Maryland. Trillions of them in our backyards and trees. And believe it or not, that means a lot of opportunities to try out a new snack, according to one Johns Hopkins professor.
They're a lot like shrimp. They're like tree shrimp.
Sustainable food expert Jessica Fonzo is planning to collect and eat cicadas herself and wants you to know that they're a great source of protein and also great for the environment.
We're in the middle of climate change. Insects, they are a great alternative source to other animal source foods, which, for example, cows, which are producing a lot of greenhouse gas emissions.
If you're brave enough to try one, she says you should pick out the nymphs while they're still white, the ones that have just come out of the ground, and only eat the females. You can then freeze them in a bag, and then when you're ready to eat, Boil them first for 2 minutes and then cook them to your liking.
You can roast them in the oven, put some salt and pepper on there, some Old Bay seasoning on them.
There's even a free cookbook online dedicated to cicada dishes called Cicadalicious. Professor Fonzo is urging
Cicadalicious.
you to try it. It only comes around once every 17 years.
You gotta try it. Why not? Live.
And for a link to that ebook, Cicadalicious.
Okay. So, they want
Alright.
people are pushing bugs. It's not the elite. It's, some weird lady who likes to eat cicadas.
I mean,
Um,
it gets
it's not
pushed
for me,
down.
but
Yeah.
again, if you can make it taste good and you can make it taste close to a burger, like I'm down for it. I
Right.
really would be.
Well, that's
Especially
what
if you're going to tell me that this burger has, 60 grams of protein per patty. Like, bro, I'm down.
Yeah, I mean that's what Bill Gates is pushing in his synthetic meat. Is I mean essentially it's bug meat.
Which again, I'm okay with that.
No,
Like, I am 100% okay with this because at the end of the day, if we really do want the population to continue to grow, we're going to need to find other sources. Like, we can only sustain ourselves on cattle for so long before it becomes something that is out of hand. Like, eventually, we're going to have to substitute for something else. Like, eventually, I'm not even saying, I'm talking about
Right.
like generations down the line. I'm not talking about in our lifetime at all, or even in our children's lifetime. I'm talking
Mhm.
about, great grandchildren or something. So I do think it inevitably will get to that point. I just don't think we need to be at that point yet. But I also think that having that kind of access to synthetic food could easily end world hunger. It would be over with. There would be no such thing as world hunger ever again. Now, if they actually implemented it into giving it to the people that need the food, that's a
Mhm.
different question.
Yeah, I mean if Americans would stop eating until their stomachs are completely bloated, then maybe there would be a little bit. I'm being critical. I know there's an Asian tradition where essentially they only eat until they're about 70% full,
Hmm.
and Americans we typically eat until we're like 95% full, and that's what causes the obesity as well as a handful of other reasons. But to jump back really quick, I wanted to ask you about the Second Amendment. Tim Pool is actually a big advocate for. He asked this question to pretty much everybody that goes on his show. Do you think that the American people should be allowed to own nukes?
I don't think anybody should have nukes.
I mean I agree with you, and I mean that's the response that
I
everybody has.
I don't think that regular everyday individuals should have nukes. But again, like I
Hmm.
said, I don't think anybody should have nukes.
Yeah, I don't think the
Um,
governments should have nukes either, but
exactly. I don't think the government should have nukes at all. But
right.
I can't stop the government from having nukes, just
Hmm.
like I can't stop North Korea or Russia from having nukes.
Right.
Um, I don't think that it should be so relatively easy to get the ability to build nuclear bombs because
Hmm.
that could easily be used in the hands of anybody.
Right.
Terrorist versus domestic terrorist, whatever the case may be. Somebody that wants to send a message, and especially with how much division we have these days, something
Hmm.
so devastating should not be in the hands of ordinary citizens. Like
Right.
we're talking about the capability of causing like a nuclear winter. We're talking about killing, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, depending on where you detonate it. Um, that's just it's too much power for anybody to even wield. But
Right.
I also believe in defunding the military. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I
To
agree. I
some
mean,
extent, I'm not
yeah,
saying completely defund the military. I'm saying
right,
that I would like to see their budget brought down a little bit.
right. Yeah, I agree with that. But I do think that, whatever the military has access to, I think that the civilians should have access to as well. Maybe with the exception of nukes, but at the same time, I think that it's hard to make that argument that our military shouldn't have nukes when we have to compete with China or Russia or Korea that all have nukes, or hinted at having nukes. There's a lot of rumors that say, like, Russia actually doesn't have any
No,
ICBMs,
at
and
the
I
end of
don't
the
think that's true, but I think they do.
at the end of the day, it's wishful thinking. Like, it
Right.
would be a great world if we didn't have nukes, but
Yeah.
we have nukes.
Yeah.
So, I guess it is better that we have nukes in
Hmm.
America for at least defensive purposes. The concern of it being used as an offensive weapon is always the
Hmm.
most terrifying of things, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's supposed to be a deterrent. It's supposed to be a deterrent. But I as a Second Amendment absolutist, whatever the military has access to, I think civilians should have access to as well. And the whole purpose to the Second Amendment isn't so that way you can go and shoot at the gun range, isn't so that way you can go and hunt for some food. The whole point to the Second Amendment is so that way you can fight a tyrannical government if it were to appear. That is the purpose of it. Whether you want to hear that, whether you like it, it doesn't matter. That's the reason for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. No, 100%, I agree with it. That's one thing that I definitely hold on to.
Hmm.
If I say when I was more conservative, I was even a Tea Party member for a while.
Hmm.
That was like 12 years ago, but um, that's one thing. The Second Amendment is something I've always held on to, especially after spending some time in Iraq, spending some time in a war zone, and even there, when you have a dictatorship, they're allowed one AK-47 per household.
Right.
Excuse me. So, and that at the end of the day, we live in a bubble. And you talk to
Yes.
any veteran, and this is what they'll tell you. We as society in America, in a first world country, we live inside of this bubble. And this bubble could any day at any moment pop. Empires have fallen, greatest of dictatorships have crumbled. We have seen entire cities wiped off the map in a matter of a day. You know, so the idea that this can go on forever or will go on forever, I think is too optimistic of a view. But again, like I said, I'm a very cynical individual, and I believe that we will eventually get to a point where we're going to have absolute chaos. We're going to have civil war. We're going to lead to all this. I don't know when it will be. I don't think it will be in my lifetime or our lifetime, but I do think it's possible. And I do see it going that way. But I think as long as we hold on to the Second Amendment, like I said, I believe it's the most important. I believe
Hmm.
this it upholds all of the other amendments. At the end
Right.
of the day, it is the most crucial one to ensuring that we don't have to worry about a world economic forum. We don't have to worry about globalization and communism and socialism all becoming, and coming and trying to take over this country, as long as the Second Amendment is in place.
Right.
Because regardless of what Biden will say, like, what are you going to do? I want. Speaking of Biden, do you notice lately he's been like whispering into the microphone during his
Yeah.
conversations?
He's been doing that since day one.
I
Like
just
every
started
once in a
noticing
while.
he's doing it a lot more
It's
lately.
in their real life.
He's like,
whispers.
guess what? You can't beat the U.S. military. And it's like, Biden, like, first of all, like, you don't understand what an insurgency does. Like, our job is to make sure that you feel the pain for as long as possible until you finally give up, or we're all dead. Like,
Right.
that is the point of it. And people will fight to the death to make sure, like, because I saw him on the news the other day talking about we're gonna ban assault weapons, and like the governor of Illinois came out and did. He banned semi-automatic weapons, like anything like outside, like pistols are still allowed, which I'm surprised they didn't try to ban as well, because it's still a semi-automatic weapon.
Right.
But they banned anything that was past a certain length that had a buttstock or a grip or anything like that that extended it out to make it a quote unquote long gun.
Hmm.
And so essentially you're banning all semi-automatic rifles, and that's absolute BS. Like,
Yep.
that is BS. Like, it's not an all right ban. It is a ban on sales and purchases, which means you can't get one inside of Illinois. And they're hoping that everybody else does this. That way, essentially, you can't buy a gun anywhere, and they're starving you out.
All right. I do like this conversation. I do want to get into the
I know,
second
but I
one
went on a whole
because
rant.
I know, and it's my issue is that, you know, over the pandemic we saw the First Amendment being attacked and your freedom of speech, and how if anybody said something that went against the agenda, you were completely silenced on all kinds of social medias. And I want to get into all of that, but we still got a lot more here. Just kind of
Yeah, we don't have a lot
scrolling
of
through it.
time either.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, this is talking about a a global resource. Okay, first of a kind global resource for a central bank digital currency and a stable coin launch. It's partnered with 85 organizations around the world to usher in a new digital currency. It's essentially what this is talking about. This is right here from the World Economic Forum. A lot of what I have on the currency is going to end up being outdated. I don't have anything from this forum so far. The you know
The 2023 one.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been going on for a couple of days now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still waiting for a lot of stuff to come out. If you've gone through that one, just hop straight to the next one. This is called the Great Restart, and its critics, the technocrats. It says the World Economic Forum leader Klaus Schwab. I'll let you pull it up really quick. World Economic Forum leader Klaus Schwab, along with the man now known as King Charles III of the United Kingdom, announced the forum's Great Reset Initiative to guide a state-managed environmentalist and corporate-aligned reconstruction of the world economy. Essentially, what they're doing here is they're pushing for a digital currency that'll be used around the world. And there's a lot of theories going out right now about how the World Economic Forum has been pushing for countries, for currencies in countries to just completely fade away or demolish, you know, as quickly as possible, so that way they can usher in this. I'm not going to say that the World Economic Forum has done that. I think that once we get into Sri Lanka, if we have enough time, that we'll see that there are definitely too many coincidences to just kind of ignore. But there's definitely something there with the World Economic Forum and trying to push through a digital currency. A one world currency.
I think the digital currency. I don't think it's a bad idea. Having a again, it's not necessarily one of those ideas that's crazy or it's outside of the realm of possibility. A matter of who controls it definitely is the big question. Who has control over all the servers? How does it work? So on and so forth. But bad thing, especially if you're people that have to travel a lot and so on and so forth, and you have an easy way. You don't have to worry about exchanging currency or knowing all of this different stuff.
Right.
Like, it's not a bad thing, and it's in the effort of uniting the world together. Again, you're just believing that it's coming along with more sinister ideas attached to it.
Well, I mean, I don't quite agree with what Kanye West said a couple of weeks ago on Timcast or on the Alex Jones show. But you know, when you're able to freeze assets like that out of an individual, it's way too easy for, if it's a digital currency and it's not fiat being paper, cash, something that you can tangibly hold and trade and sell goods. If it's a digital currency and you're caught with, you know, like the pandemic, you say something that goes along the agenda and they just want to silence you, they could easily just boom, freeze your account. Now you don't have any access to it. If you don't have that brain chip that you're supposed to, then boom, like it's your account's frozen. Like if you don't go along with the agenda,
But that's all.
it's
That's
way
all
too easy.
hypothetical. That's hypothetical. 100%.
I think it's
Like,
hypothetical
because nobody
for
has
now.
nobody has a brain implant. Nobody,
Right.
like, Elon Musk is the only one that is talking about some kind of Neuralink.
Well, there is a company in China actually that has already successfully implanted somebody with a brain implant.
Yeah, I'm sure that they have, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily meaning that we're going to have everybody with a brain implant. And again, it doesn't mean that you're able to control somebody or do anything else. Like the idea that we have the technology to even do that is far,
Mhm.
far away from us. Like we're not even close to that kind of technology to be able to control somebody's mind with an implant. It's just not here, not
I
in our
mean,
lifetime.
no, it's definitely in our lifetime. It's already here. I
It's
mean,
not.
the studies that came out with Elon Musk and him putting the implant in the pigs. I mean, it was very
Yeah,
clear
that's
that
a pig. We're
yeah,
completely different things.
yeah,
If you okay, from a religious aspect,
fundamentally we're not. It's a brain, and the brain can be controlled. And I mean, the
yes,
World
but
Economic Forum
our
talks about it
brain
all the time.
our brain is so vastly different than a pig's brain. Like you can't just sit there and be like, okay, well, we figured out the brain. Like we haven't figured out the brain, and to think that we can put something into somebody's brain and then just control them like a puppet.
Yes.
No, no, it's
I mean,
BS.
no,
It
they
is
talk
not.
about it's biohacking. Biohacking is already here.
It's
Biohacking is
not
it.
though. Who are
We
they
could
biohacking?
uh, the World Economic Forum talks about this all the time. Biohacking, that humans are hackable. The fact that you can already hack a person's brain. It starts off with subtle psychological things. You know, if I could coerce you into doing something, then I
Okay,
have
but that's
already
not the
essentially
same
done it.
thing.
No,
That's a
it's not
form of no, that is a form of manipulation. That is
manipulation
not
exactly.
putting something in your
Correct.
brain
But
and controlling you.
if I put something in your brain and then I just overload it with whatever I want, I can manipulate you at 1,000 times
Again,
greater
but you're
rate.
talking about science that, as it stands, science that does not exist.
I mean, that's exactly what he did with the pigs. I mean, he was
Yeah,
able
okay,
to
but again,
transmit everything.
we can do lots of things with mice that we can't do with humans. We can do lots of things with many different animals that we have experimented on that we can't also do with humans. We cannot compare what he did to pigs one time, which because we
No,
don't even know what they actually did. If they just squeaked a lot, that's not an expression of
but
what actually happened or what they did.
I think that humans are even more malleable than animals.
No,
For sure. The fact that we as a human, I know humans, and if I know
we
how to
have
manipulate
souls,
a
right?
human,
So if we have a soul, how can you
mhm,
control the soul that is the consciousness?
you're controlling the brain. The brain is the functioning, it's what makes the computer run. And if I can, put whatever into this chip that I want and just overload it with a bunch of propaganda or advertisements, I sit here and I show you an advertisement of McDonald's over and over and over and over. Eventually you're going to want McDonald's, you're going to crave McDonald's. And as soon as I get you into McDonald's one time, now I've got you hooked. Whereas previously, before that, you wouldn't have even cared about McDonald's. You would have wanted a healthier way of living. But I mean, it's hacking, biohacking is definitely already here. They're telling us that it's already here.
Yeah, again, but biohacking is not the same thing as what we're talking about. We're
Well,
talking
that's
about
exactly
brain
what they're
hacking
declining.
using a
Yeah.
microchip. That's a completely
Mhm.
different situation because we're talking about
Right.
computers, we're talking about uh, uh, electrodes touching your brain,
Right.
so on and so forth. Like,
So
first of all, again, as long as the Second Amendment exists, this will never even be a discussion in the United States of America.
no, that's the thing. It's already a discussion in America. It's
Only
already a
because we're
discussion
making
around
it
the
because
world.
it
No,
only because of people like you who are sitting here like it's going to happen.
no,
Like Elon Musk is
they're
talking about.
telling you this.
No,
They're telling
again,
you that they can hack your brain. They're
yes,
already telling you,
biohacking,
yes, hold on,
psychologically
hold
doing
on.
so.
Let me get it out really quick here. They're already telling you that they can biohack, that they can hack into your brain, into whatever they want. They can already do this.
Supposedly,
So if you,
supposedly.
sure. So if you add a microchip to that, you're only going to 1,000x that. If it's already here and then you add a
You're
computer chip into
connecting
that,
You're connecting two dots that don't necessarily go together. You're putting these
there,
coincidences together and saying that they're
no,
connected
tech.
just because they hypothetically, there's no
Mhm.
proof actually that they're out here being able to control you through biohacking, even though supposedly they say it somewhere, which I have yet to see them saying we're out here manipulating you and tricking you, and this is how we're actually going to do things. That is not one word of anything I have heard so far. Then to go on and say further that when we put this chip in your brain, this psychological twisting that we're doing will only be enhanced because of this chip, is saying that you, one, understand exactly what the chip is going to do. Two, you have seen the information and the science behind it to back this up, but you haven't seen any of these things. At the end of the day, this is all 100% speculation because someone said the word biohacking.
It's not that they said the word biohacking. It's that these corporations are telling. Biohacking is an application of the hacker ethnic in pursuit of enhancement or change of the body's function through technological means, such as to do it yourself cybernetic devices, or by introducing biochemicals. Grinders are a self-identified community of body hackers. And I mean, let's see.
So
How far
biohacking by
biohacking
that definition isn't anything we're talking about.
by definition, I mean that is a microchip. Yes, that's exactly what they're talking about. Is
Yeah, but that-
technology becoming one with
But that is not
humanity and hacking
yeah,
it.
okay. Yeah, but that is no. It's not. It didn't say about hacking. What it said was about combining with technology. But that definition said nothing exclusively about being able to hack that material.
All right, let me see.
Read it again.
I'll find a full article for you. I'll find a full article, but we got to read through this as well because we're already like at time, and we still got like another like 15 to go through.
Okay, this is the Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab. He goes on talking about mobile supercomputing, intelligent robots, self-driving cars, neurotechnology, brain enhancements, genetic editing, the evidence of dramatic change in all around us and is happening at exponential speeds. Professor Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, blah, 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 blah. This is his fourth book.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially going into the detail on what he sees as society and what is the next industrial revolution. Mostly computers, like we were talking, brain enhancements, things of that nature.
I'll have to look up biohacking for us on like another episode because there's
that's fine. We'll do a whole discussion on biohacking. That's fine.
Okay.
Because I actually by the definition that you gave, it had nothing to do with the topic that we were getting into. So I really want to dive into that topic. I want to do some studying and research on it and come back to it with a fresh mind and some new knowledge at it.
I've actually got a whole thing right here for this article. Professor Klaus, I think you just actually read that, didn't you?
Yeah.
He is convinced that we are the beginning of a revolution that is fundamentally changing the way we live, work, and relate to one another, which he explores in his new book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. I definitely recommend that everybody get this book, audiobook, whatever you want, and definitely read it. The next one, there is pros and cons in the next article, but I mean, I think that you're a good advocate for what the pros are of the World Economic Forum and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I want to focus on the cons, though, specifically.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up.
Okay. We're gonna skip the video. It's a DeSantis video. It's a bottom half for cons.
All right, so pros and cons of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So you just want to go to the cons because we pretty much already talked about it. All right, go ahead if you want to read through it. You want me to do it?
You can read it better than
all
I
right.
can.
So the cons of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. 1, inequality. It is all about who gets the benefit of these technologies and of the results that they help produce. The reality is that the largest benefactors tend to be the providers of the intellectual and physical capital, shareholders, investors, innovators. Technology is one of the main reasons why income has staggered and even decreased for a majority of the population in high income countries. Shocking, highly skilled workers has increased while the demand for workers with less education and lower skills has decreased, and the part in between will start to wear thin. So this could also lead to potential job losses, not to even mention that for developing countries that are technologically and infrastructure challenged and skill challenged that are not easily to overcome.
Right.
2, cybersecurity risk. When everything is connected, the risk of hacking data and tampering with it and using it for malicious intent is now more prevalent. It is also not as contained as before. It is more and more frequent that we hear the dreaded news of new data breaches so often, in fact, that it does not shock us anymore, not to mention that it challenges the very nature of identity and privacy, essentially with the increased use of data analysis and machine learning. That again, I think if we started investing more heavily in using cyber type technology, that we would have stronger security. Not to say that it's impenetrable, but we're going to continue to grow it and make it stronger as it goes along. Let's see. 3 is core industry disruptions. We see this already. Taxis are competing against Uber, Lyft, and traditional television and cinema compete with Netflix and YouTube. The hotel industry with Airbnb and any store and competing against Amazon. This has ramifications in the type of services being offered and the model through which they are offered, as well as the jobs associated with them. I don't. What's the issue there? I'm not really sure what they're complaining about. They're complaining that there are other companies that compete with taxis.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a couple companies that compete with taxis. I think that they actually mentioned, Uber
Yeah,
and Lyft,
they Uber and Lyft,
traditional
yeah,
television
and
cinema
then
and Netflix.
yeah, but are
Sorry, I
we
was
saying
kind of
that those are
distracted
bad
for a
things?
second.
Because that's what it really seems like, is that we're disrupting the core industries, the big guys, Amazon and Netflix and YouTube and taxi
Right.
drivers. Like,
I think that this point was kind of already clarified in point number 1. Because
yeah,
I mean, it's job loss.
yeah,
All right. I mean, and then we have, the ethical issues as well.
with AI, genetic engineering, and increased automation.
Right.
And we've talked about this in depth. I think
Mhm.
automation is the future. I think robots are
I-
inevitable, especially when it comes to manufacturing jobs and line
Mhm.
work and cooks. McDonald's, all of these places, I think eventually are going to be replaced by robots. I don't
Right.
think it is a matter of if. I think that is a matter of when, and
Mhm.
how we respond to that is definitely going to be a
Yes.
matter of debate.
Yeah, how we respond to it, I think, is going to be the big thing, because again, it's going to be a lot of job loss. But and then you got a lot of people that are going to go on to the whole AI thing and do AI deserve rights, and what kind of rights do they deserve? And I mean, that's a debate for when AI is here. And I
Yeah.
mean, AI is already here, but when it becomes more mainstream.
So let's jump. We're gonna jump right over to the Sri Lanka,
Okay.
and we're going to end it with that. And then we'll
Well, let
talk more. We'll talk more about the World
Okay.
Economic Forum tomorrow.
Okay.
Like you said, it's still going on. I'm sure we're gonna have more to discuss, and we can.
Well, I'll read through some of them, because I think that a lot of them are actually still important. You can pull up Sri Lanka though, and like get it ready as we go. We did have a clip of DeSantis. He goes off on the Davos and the World Economic Forum, and he talks about how China, during the pandemic, they sent us a lot of false positives, a lot of false negatives on a lot of tests that were sent over. We had some Twitter posts by Michael Schellenberger, who is one of the gentlemen that Elon Musk has been working with to release the Twitter files. I do want to read one of them. It says, "The great restart, eating insects instead of meat, and you'll own nothing and be happy," and conspiracy theories, but in fact they're not. They all originated from Davos, the World Economic Forum, from its own website.
Okay, yeah, that I actually wanted to mention. I actually mentioned this earlier. We already talked about this again. It's not the fact that the Great Reset is the conspiracy theory
Mhm.
that it was said. Like, people aren't debating on whether or not this was said. We know that it was said.
Mhm.
It is the context that you are reading into it that is different from the context that
Well,
I am reading into it.
I think
You are
for
seeing it as a danger to yourself. You are seeing it as an attack on America, on our rights, on everything else. that are getting together and they think that they can make a world a better place when they don't understand the world as it is.
I think for years the Great Reset was a conspiracy in the fact of there was anybody pushing an agenda.
Well,
It was
okay, so
denied for years.
first of all, the Great Reset, it wasn't like the name could definitely have been picked better. Maybe it was an
Mhm.
intentionally picked name.
Mhm.
Maybe it was. But at the end of the day, the idea of the Great Reset or the whatever you want to call it, it comes
Mhm.
from biblical aspects. Like this all starts from Christian roots at the end of the day. Like we have all been,
so?
it is because it has all been about Genesis, about the end of days, about how there is going to be a one world nation and so on and so forth. Not Genesis,
Revelations.
Revelations.
Okay.
Revelations goes deep into talking about all of this, and it all aligns
Mhm.
100% with the idea that this is coming. This is the coming of Christ, if you will.
Mhm.
And that has always been
Mhm.
the argument is that we are seeing the days before the return of Christ, and
Right.
that the one world order is coming. That's what it is. One world order.
Right.
And that has become the the horn that has been tooted for so very long by very right-wing individuals that they believe that the end of the world is coming or the end
Mhm.
of America is coming, which aligns very much along with the idea of Revelations, which again, you know my feelings on the Bible and how I believe
Mhm.
it's more of a self-fulfilling prophecy than anything else.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's actually a super interesting topic. I've got a whole lot to say there, but for time's sake, I don't think that I don't think that we can. I am going to say though that it is very coincidental that everything in the Bible is coming to fruition, and
I don't think I
I'll
don't
leave it
think
there.
I don't think it is coincident because I don't think that much has actually come to fruition.
Mhm.
And what things that have supposedly come to fruition is like saying it's going to rain, you know,
Mm,
in winter.
mhm. Yeah, I
Yes,
mean you've got the four blood moons, you've got all of the stars aligning, you've got
knowing
that.
astrology.
Yeah, I mean okay, but it's the fact that all of these signs are happening in our lifetime, not over the span of 10,000 years. It's all happening right now.
Okay,
It's
that
it's
doesn't
all
mean
it's all
anything though.
happening. Well, it's all happening together.
In your opinion, all these things are happening together, but it's not. We're gonna have a religious
Yeah,
talk later
yeah.
on
We
because
we we
obviously,
have
like,
to.
we're gonna have to disagree on that one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is, and again, but like I said, it all goes back to the biblical principles.
Hmm.
Is that there's an idea in the back of every religious individual's mind that this is
Hmm.
the end of times. And so when I see something that is the Great Reset or New World
Hmm.
Order, I automatically think back to Revelations, and I think
Hmm.
about how this could be the end of time. These people must be evil because this is a word, Satan, satanic, things of this nature I've heard thrown around a lot. Elon Musk, in fact, actually said that something was satanic or so on and so forth.
Hmm.
Like this is the kind of stuff that's spreading the
Okay,
bad
so.
news, because when you sit there and you call people satanic because they
Hmm.
think differently than you do, then because you can't prove that these people are satanic in any way, shape, or form. You just simply can't. And at the end of the day, like I don't believe that calling people satanic and calling different ideas than your satanic is going to help you in any way, shape, or form. It makes people like me just roll
Hmm.
eyes at you.
Right. Now, I've actually I do have a lot of evidence to prove that a lot of these people not necessarily are satanic, but do have a belief in God.
I mean, that's fine if they can believe
Right.
it. They can believe in whatever God they choose to.
Right.
I don't
But
care. They can believe in Satan for all I care.
I mean that's the point, and you have to
But
believe in God in order to be able to believe in Satan, and a lot of these people do. I mean, you want to go to the Bohemian Forest and the rituals that they do there, and how they sacrifice these effigies of children. They're not real children. There's
but
these
if we
these
want to talk
effigies
about
of
what the
children.
actual satanic Bible, it
Hmm.
doesn't require the sacrifice of anything. In fact, the
Right.
satanic Bible is actually,
Well,
I
that's
would
what it.
say, better than
Yeah.
the actual Christian Bible in terms of
Mhm.
it tells you to just be a freaking good person.
Right.
Essentially, it says what the New Testament says.
I haven't read it, so I can't necessarily do that. But
I
I mean,
have
the
it.
Bible does say, do not sacrifice your children to. It's a specific gentleman, which is not it's a specific demon. What is the name? McCall. do not sacrifice your children to McCall. And when you see these rituals in the Bohemian Grove, that's exactly what they're doing. They have this statue of McCall, and they're sacrificing their effigies of their
Who is?
children. So you can get into a lot of Hollywood is doing it.
I'll have
I'm telling you, I'll have to
fact check it
I'll
because I don't believe
pull
that people are sacrificing anybody.
I'll pull together a full thing for you, because I mean that's a whole nother hour-long conversation as well.
Okay, yeah, let's end this one. We'll cover everything that we missed tomorrow,
Okay.
along with everything else.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. We had a lot of banter.
Yeah, it's all right. It'll happen. But yeah, we'll start to record longer ones too, and so on and so forth when we got more time.
Good episode, good debate. If you guys liked anything that I said, hit the like button. You like anything that he said, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hit the dislike button. And as always, subscribe down below. If there's anything you guys want us to talk about or cover, then please comment down below so that way we can get into it. And anything for you?
No, I mean everything he said. Do it.
There you
Like,
go.
subscribe. Don't like, subscribe. I don't care. Thanks for watching all the way to the end if you made it this far, because it's pretty far. All right. Bye.